Brian Sports Parliament last week, and a good meeting.
Yeah, it was quite an eventful meeting. I quite liked that. It was a really good attendance, which I was pleased about. A lot of passion shown, which again, excuse me, I was pleased about as well. At the end of the day, it was good to see so many people wanting the best for Shrewsbury Town, which obviously is very pleasing for me to go and listen to that. There were a number of issues brought up, and one particular question ended up in a 45 minute conversation, which then we missed some of the agenda items or some of the questions that had been brought up prior to the meeting. So obviously on your idea, we thought we'd just try and cover off some of the ones that were missed, so that everybody's we're being transparent.
Let's go then. First one. What are the specific actions the club are taking to address the failure to achieve the Family Club Standards Award last time?
Well, I think I didn't really know too much about this until this season. We did obviously look at how we could improve the whole match day experience for younger fans and families. What happens is the EFL send a mystery family out twice. I think it's twice per season. We have had one, and they do a full report on the whole match day experience for a family. Now, the fact, obviously, with the community hub now hosting pre-match entertainment for by way of the FIFA competition, the PlayStation, etc. We've done bits and bobs. We've done the club shop being in the family stand, a pop-up shop. Obviously the ticket prices for us, when you look at the under 8s, free, etc. It is quite an attractive family proposition to come to the football. We have tried to make it more family friendly, even with the kids snack box that we've done, where you get hot food and drink, and it's crisps and etc. For $3.50, I think it is off the top of my head. So, but again, it's trying to be family friendly so that we can get the local people and local families, new local families, to come along to the stadium.
And I guess it's about reacting to that report we've had and then making all the points ready for the next time.
Yeah, I mean, it's for me, it's actually something I look really closely into them. I think that it's really good feedback to get an independent family come to your stadium and picking off things that perhaps that you wouldn't see, and it could be things on the internet, how the purchase of tickets, it could be any small things, directional signage. You know, again, that's something else we've done as well. We've added some new signage recently. So there's bits and bobs. In fact, the signage came out at the Supporters Parliament meeting. There was a bit of concern that away supporters didn't know where they were coming when they were coming through the front gate, so we added a couple of signs at the front gate showing them where the visiting supporter stand was. And there was also feedback from a previous Supporters Parliament meeting that people were coming up Super Blues Way, visiting fans didn't know where to go. So again, we've got signage on the west stand as they come out of Super Blues Way, so they understand where they're going. And I think small things like that hopefully that we perhaps miss as staff, and it's important that we get that feedback from everybody.
What are the club's comments on the fact that we are now the only club in League One without a supporters bar?
Well, anybody who's been to Supporters Parliament meetings in the past, this has been discussed at previous. Yeah, we would like to, or I personally would certainly like to, and I think the club would like to have a supporters bar at the stadium. We are aware that we're slightly out of town. We've got the Brooklands just round the corner, which do very well out of the fact that we've got events on here. But for me, I need to make sure, and we've discussed this long and hard, that the supporters bar's got to be a 365-day-a-week use. It's got to be able to be used out with match days. Match days are, say, 25 days a year. People coming for 2 or 3 hours before a game, to the actual cost of the building. In order to get that investment back, we need to make sure it's viable for it to be used for other things. And I mean, obviously Jamie and I have spoken quite a bit about potential for an area beside the community hub, putting another building, an open bar, if you like, that could be an open building without anything in it apart from a bar, that could be used as a bar on match days, that perhaps Jamie could then utilise through the week for slimming clubs, dance clubs, people to hire out for children's parties and things like that, as another area, which then justifies the expenditure in the first place, the investment.
How is the CEO progressing with his stated aim of increasing home support to 6,000?
Well, I still believe that there's a huge potential in the area to get more people along here. I keep saying it, 75,000 people in Shrewsbury. population of Shropshire, only league team for 33 miles. We've got huge potential, but I think football helps that as well. Obviously, since Paul's come in, the results have certainly improved. We had our biggest home attendance against Fleetwood. It's obviously a holiday, but it was Shoots, unfortunately, the biggest home attendance, and we lose the game, the only game we've lost, and the only goal we've had conceded since Paul took over as well. But I think anybody who was at the game Saturday will have enjoyed a great game of football, and obviously a home win helps too. And we're hoping that they'll come back and hopefully bring some more people, and obviously the positivity coming from Saturday because of the performance, the level of performance. You're hoping that people who are maybe lapsed supporters or people who didn't come on Saturday maybe think, well, I'll go next week for the Oldham game, which is a huge game for the club.
How does the CEO actually expect the relationship between the fan and club to improve when there is such a divide and the club seem unwilling to improve communication?
Well, I don't personally believe that. I mean, I've attended every supporters parliament meeting since I came last February, which is almost a year now. I've also obviously been quite open to anybody. My email address is on the website. You and I do these YouTube interviews as often as we possibly can, so that there is dialogue. We are saying things. I've got a regular dialogue with the supporters parliament, and I've always said that anybody's got any issues, email them into me, and I'll try and resolve them. There are a number of issues that we have resolved in the 10 months, like the Super Blues way and the pathway. How that's been improved. We've obviously now as well, we've got a solution to the lighting, which was an issue before, and we're delighted that the Super Blues have gone to the Super Blues, and they've agreed to fund it as well. So that's another project we've got, which just comes out of the supporters parliament, which again is through dialogue that we are resolving. The Memorial Gardens, another great example of how everybody working together. There obviously was a need for a memorial garden. Super Blues funded it. The OSC got involved. Salop Leisure provided a bench. The supporters parliament guys were involved in the committee of it. And that was a real positive impact that the supporters parliament had through communication with the club.
Could the club's media department kindly provide a video highlights from memorable matches in years gone by?
Well, I think that's probably one for you, so do you want to answer that one yourself?
Yeah, I can do a picture of you. We can do. The problem is the archive we have isn't the best as the club's, because it hasn't been kept over the years. I have got all of Steve Yates, who used to do the videos here, his VHSs and SVHSs. It's just getting the time and the manpower to go through to catalogue them and to digitise them, but it's on the agenda.
Yeah, I think it would be a useful thing for, obviously the supporters have asked for that, and I think it would be quite good to try and get something out there if you can.
Cool. Does the club's quality assure its media content before it's released to the public domain?
Well, I think I can partly answer this for you. I mean, you do have a department of two in the media department. There is so much goes on in a football club constantly. There's never a dull moment or a quiet moment, shall we say. And I think I do understand that, yeah, there have been mistakes, and I think we all hold our hands up and say that certain things have not gone out too well, or there's been spelling mistakes and different things. We all make mistakes, and that obviously we're all keen to improve that. We don't want to do that, but I take it from you guys that when you do put press releases out and things like that, you do let the others see it. So that you get equally blamed for it if something does go wrong. But we're always keen to try and look as professional as we possibly can with any content we're putting out. So hopefully going forward there will be less mistakes, and we'll be very careful as much as we can.
Will do. How can the club increase its revenue streams?
In a number of ways. I mean, obviously you spoke before about getting the attendance levels up. That certainly brings more revenue. I spoke before at the supporters parliament about the food and how that's been far more profitable than it was previously when it was subcontracted out for the football club, and yet people are saying, well, we're still running out of pies, and we certainly got, I think hopefully we got the numbers right at the weekend. I haven't heard any complaints about that. We are trying to improve that. What was the original question again?
Club increase its revenue streams.
So more people that come along, the more people buying tickets, the more people hopefully buying food from the club, the more potential for sponsors as well. The Lidl project, obviously from our point of view, would be hugely beneficial to the football club as a revenue stream coming in, which would then hopefully allow us to invest in other things that can potentially provide other revenue streams on a regular basis by getting a capital sum from Lidl.
Why is it not possible to purchase the under-8 ticket online, but only through the phone or by queuing?
I think that is purely because they are free tickets, just so that it's not subject to abuse. I think it is something we could potentially look at, but I assume from the going by what has happened previously, it's always been under 8 because it's a free ticket that we don't want to just be given the way people can do it online with no proof of age, no proof that the person's entitled to get a free ticket. We're obviously trying to do as much as we can to try and encourage people to come, and if that is impacting on people buying tickets because they have to call up or contact the ticket office, then that's something we need to look at.
Can the cost of parking at the ground at £12 be reduced?
It's something I'd like to look at. Spoken before with the Supporters Parliament again about this, about ticket prices and car parking. From a club point of view, we want to get as many people in the car park as we possibly can. The issue we have is the cost of the people who have bought season passes. They're paying £250 just now, so if you work that out on a league game only, I think it's about £10 or £11 a game. So we have to be conscious of those who have purchased a season pass and make sure that we're not selling the car parking for game by game cheaper than what they're paying when they're putting their money up front. But I think that's something I would like to look at for obviously when we put the new prices out for next season, whether we can look at the whole pricing of the car park to make sure we hopefully get more people buying season passes, but make it attractive enough so that if we do have any spaces left, we can sell them for a reasonable price, because I'm sure the parking at £12 puts people off.
With around 700 homes being built close to the ground over the next few years, has the club taken any measures to encourage new residents to support the club and make the facilities available to them? And are we working with the developers?
Well, I know that Jamie from the community side has certainly been working with the developers over, buildings, etc. Obviously, it's a bit early yet for us to be doing anything. The fields to outside the stadium at the front are still fields just now, but we are monitoring that closely. If we've got an opportunity for 700 houses, then for us to be able to market that, of course, we will be trying to get new supporters to come along when they're basically going to be our next door neighbours as well. And we are trying to do different initiatives that we possibly can to try and encourage new supporters. We had over 100 there from the youth group offer that we started recently at Saturday's game, so you're hoping that that's the young people that have come through their youth group, and if some of them enjoyed the game, which I'm sure they all did, hopefully they'll come back with maybe their parents, friends, relatives in future as well. So yeah, we're always looking for new initiatives that we can possibly do to encourage more people to come back to getting the crowd back over 6,000 where it should be. If we could get 700 of those houses and 2 people to come out of every house, that'd be another 1,400 supporters potentially. So there's a huge possibility in it. This end of town is obviously going to be markedly increased in the volume of people round about, especially with businesses as well. So hopefully going forward, I know it seemed to be as out of town at the moment, but the way Shrewsbury's expanding, obviously the south end of the town is going to be quite a vibrant area going forward.
Right, that's those supporters polling questions. So just a couple of quick updates and other stuff.
Okay.
Lidl project and the planning application.
Well, obviously the Lidl planning went through in November. The 106 variation, which is to do with the community pitch moving from where the Lidl site would be to beside the community hub where they would run it, Shrewsbury Town, the community, that was deferred until December. It was then deferred until January, and we've heard just at the tail end of last week that the meeting in January has been cancelled, so it's now going to the middle of February, which is quite frustrating obviously from everybody's point of view. I think we're all keen to get it over the line, and having spoken to Lidl last week and tried to how do you pass that news on nicely, because they were hoping to start work on the 22nd of February. They had a contractor appointed and were hoping that everything would go through, and just assumed it would. The slight concern I've got is that the asset manager was talking to me about, there's a store in Telford they've got just now, which they might need to move all their emphasis onto there, which would be disappointing for everybody, especially in Shrewsbury, for the Telford store to take precedence over the Shrewsbury one. So we are hopeful that we can get a resolution. Obviously, if we can get a resolution in the meeting, I think it's the 15th or 16th of February, then hopefully they can start the work sooner rather than later. And also from the community point of view, from us, we want Jamie and his team to to be able to start using of having their own facility, especially now that the training ground, with obviously the building works started, internal building work started now too. Now we've got the building over there, and the planning permission's now been given. So in the coming weeks, hopefully we'll see some big changes to the way the training ground looks with the building and the road in.
What's the timescale now for the training ground? I guess it's
Oh, don't tell me a timescale.
not a timescale in that,
No.
but sort of a vague timescale.
A vague timescale is sooner rather than later. I think Paul's, especially with a bit of wet weather as moment just now as well, they're talking about even maybe using the pitches, which should be great for them to see, give me the feedback of what it's like. They were going to actually mark out a pitch this week as well. So, but it is important we get it right. We were over last week with Paul and all his backroom team to make sure that what we are doing in the plan for the internals of the building are exactly to everybody's specification and everybody's happy, and we made some slight alterations based on that. So it's a case of just ripping out any buildings that are to make it a shell, if you like, internally, and then start work on the spec that we've all agreed last week to start getting the work done, and hopefully sooner rather than later.
One thing as well that you've been involved in probably more times than you wanted so far this season is appeals for red card. Jim O'Brien's and then Toto's, which again was overturned, and it was good to have him on Saturday.
I mean, in some ways we're in a fortunate position that I've won the two appeals that we've put in, but I look at it differently. I just think the two of them were obvious that they weren't red cards in the first place. But from just so people understand how that all works, basically on the Monday you have to notify them that it's your intention to appeal, and you have to have your evidence in by 1 o'clock on the Tuesday, which was how that worked out. We put the video evidence. I put a statement together of basically looking at the rules of football, and it sounds like a lot of legal talk, but it's just basically just trying to put a case together that why the red card was wrong. We then got a statement from Paul and Toto as well, on their recollection of it, and we also put some stills into our case and the evidence as well, of showing where the impact was and how he actually took the ball rather than the player, which was the referee's report was actually quite vital as well, because there was a couple of comments in that on how he saw it at the time. And listen, we understand that referees, it's very, very hard in live time, if you like, in normal speed, to get things wrong, because it can be, you have got to make a judgment very, very quickly. But when we slowed it down, we showed the pictures, and we looked at it, you could see that from what he had thought had happened, didn't actually happen. So I'm delighted we got it over the line. We got obviously the appeal in the Tuesday morning, and to be fair to the FA, they responded really quickly, and I think we knew by about 3 o'clock in the afternoon that the panel had overturned it. So that was pleasing. Having had the day before that, Paul and I had the opportunity to go to Wembley to meet the committee. Basically, they do a halfway stage of where your penalty points are, and the number of penalty points, and they talk to the bottom 4 clubs. Now, there is a fine of 25 grand if you're 40% above the average for your league, which we were sitting at with 3 other clubs. So they spoke to us and asked us what we were doing, and obviously since Paul's come in, the disciplinary record, well, thankfully we've got 2 red cards rescinded, but since Paul's come in, the yellow card count has gone down as well. The average is right down, and the discipline has been a lot better from everybody, and which is pleasing. At the end of the day, the last thing we want is another fine this season, especially 25 grand. So hopefully with the measures that have been taken since Paul's come in, obviously it was explained to Paul when we first met him, the chairman and I, that the discipline, we weren't happy with the discipline, the way it was going. I don't think any of the supporters were either, to be honest with you. But we wanted to make sure that we weren't in this position we were at the end of the season. And obviously when you look at the averages, we looked at the average even over the time before Paul's come in and where we are now, it's certainly an improvement, and hopefully that will continue.